Hello, internet. I didn't realize how aggressive that song actually is. So I was looking for. There's these intro songs. I usually do samba, bossa nova, nice little kind of. I don't know, nice little relaxing kind of ditty. Uh, but that one, I thought it matched kind of the mood of the mad scientist here, but I never listened to it with headphones on before. So it's a little aggressive, I think, for what we do. Hello, my name's Jack Kulas. I am a 20-year professor of industrial and organizational psychology, a 10-year user of OR, probably more than that, but 10 years, roughly, approximately, exclusively user of R for statistical applications. And for the majority of the time I've been using R, I've also been leveraging R to author and communicate the results of the analyses. And I do that through um, wrapping the analyses themselves within a authoring package or platform such as R Markdown or Quarto. And so every week I hang out for an hour, roughly an hour, and oftentimes I'm joined by some compatriots who are also working on projects that use R to not only perform analyses but also to communicate the results of those analyses. And so we just kind of make ourselves available if there's other people out there who are interested in this and want to know how to get started, or maybe you're working on a project and just want to bounce some ideas off of some people, because there's lots of really good resources out there. And YouTube, the reason I think we're on YouTube is, or one of the reasons that I decided to start this on YouTube was because there's so many good YouTube resources for doing this kind of thing, but none of them are interactive, or we haven't seen any that have this kind of interactive flavor or intent to them. So instead of having a canned tutorial, we thought that we would make ourselves available, and so we just hang out here every week. Tuesdays currently, that might have to change eventually, but we'll keep it Tuesdays for, I think, the next few months at least. But what we do, in addition to just kind of hanging out and making ourselves available if someone has questions, is we'll cover a focal topic as well and just kind of explore a feature of using these, what some people view as analytical platforms, as authoring platforms. And so we'll pick a feature and kind of explore it and test its capabilities. Sometimes we know ahead of time what the feature is, and some of it and most of its parameters or capabilities, and oftentimes we don't. And so the last few weeks we've been playing with Typist, which has been facilitated via Quarto, the platform that we've been favoring in terms of authoring. Quarto actually has enveloped or accommodated this entire kind of open source platform of Typist. And what Typist does is it enables the production of PDFs in a little smoother syntactic flavor than the traditional tech or LaTeX, which is a little more popular there than tech. Tech was the original specification of typesetting with the intent of creating documents that are heavy on math primarily, and then LaTeX came about a little bit later and made it a little more user friendly in terms of producing whole manuscripts and different manuscripts types, and it has all kinds of packages that facilitate different formatting things like columns and margins and things like that. Anyway, so Typist is the newest rendition of a PDF generator, and we've been playing with that the last 3 weeks. Three, I think it's been. I think this is the fourth week. So the thought tonight was, let's go ahead and take everything that we've learned about Typist so far, and we're not experts by any means, but hopefully we know enough to leverage it and not create anything too dangerous. And I thought, well, the document type that we might as well play with is a university syllabus. I have a university syllabus that's been authored in Quarto using the standard LaTeX specifications and um, the current Quarto specifications and parameters in terms of a PDF before we delved into Typist. So I thought we'd try to replicate that using Typist. So that's going to be kind of our focus tonight and maybe even next week. So I'm not sure how far we'll get with the university syllabus here, that the class syllabus. But we'll see. We'll see soon enough here. So let's get our transition into what happened last week because we explore these topics in a very kind of open-ended manner. Every week we also come back and revisit what happened the previous week and try to present it in a little more in a format that's a little more easily digestible in terms of learning. So here's our transition into what happened last week.
On the perilous path to Mount Flatten and Bullwinkle's mine, Rocky and Bullwinkle wound up on board a train crossing the desert. With them is Captain Peter Peachfuzz, the muddle-headed head of G2.
Yes, Rocky, I've been following you and Bullwinkle for days now. Why? 'Cause I'm lost.
But you must have another reason.
Well, actually, it's your mine, Bullwinkle.
What about it?
It's chock full of upsidasium.
Upsidasium.
Gee, that's great! Marvelous! What is it?
I can't tell you.
Can't tell us?
But the mine's mine! Mine's mine!
Surely you can give us a little hint.
Well, all right, but just a hint.
And Captain Peachfuzz told them a strange story indeed. It started several years ago in a little western town of Buzzard's Craw, when a grizzled old prospector trudged into town leading his pack mule. He looked like any other grizzled old prospector, but his burro was just a little bit different. It floated along behind him 20 feet in the air.
They have got to get rid of Professor Peach, not Professor, what is he, Captain Peach Fuzz? Not a fan of Peach Fuzz. That guy. They got to ditch him. So last week, and again, these slides, the link to the slides is linked in the comments if you'd like to kind of follow along. Let me mute myself for a quick. Doggone it, I ate right before we did this again. It wasn't peanuts this time, which are usually the problem. It was, what the heck were they? They sound better than they are. They're Trader Joe's chicken tikka masala samosas. It's too many words. So I should have known there's just too many words in it. It was fine. The peas threw me a little bit. I like peas in normal samosas, but I don't know. They didn't go well with the chicken tikka masala. So if you'd like to access the slides, there's hyperlinks and resources on these. So the hyperlink on this current slide that we're looking at takes you to the Quarto help page and resource link regarding the current CSS styled styling commands that are supported with Typist. Now, what you see on the right here is a rendered document. This is a PDF document. And I didn't put a link to the full document here. This is just a snip, a screenshot of what it looks like. But you'll see a few different things that I've highlighted here. And one is, and again, we just used the revealed JS. I'm sorry, we're on a different document. We used the template Quarto HTML or PDF content and only tweaked it a little tiny bit. So you see, for example, this 1+1 code chunk and the result of that being the answer 2. That's standard if you access Quarto now and start a new Quarto document. But we have this badass color, our favorite hexadecimal code color here. You'll see it in two different places. One is as a background under the running code, and then the other is as a font color at the very bottom of the page here where we have echo false. And so we tried to use our favorite badass color a couple of different ways. And the first way was through using fenced divs. And fenced divs, the fences themselves are at least three colons in sequence. And then that opens the fence, and then there's a closing fence as well. So we have an opening fence on line 8 and a closing fence on line 10 here on the left. And supposedly the background color CSS specification should be operative within Typist in terms of creating a styling that we're interested in. And so this styling should have been just merely a highlighting or background behind the text that's generated itself. And so you'll see on the right under Quarto, again with that very fancy, nice looking Q, still haven't quite identified the exact font that makes a cue like that. It's something libertine, but we still haven't identified the exact font. So if anyone stumbles across this and knows the default font for Typist that produces this crazy cue, please let me know. I would love to know. I appreciate this font. Um, but so the fence divs were not as responsive to the formatting that we were trying to apply, the stylings that we were trying to apply, and we can't say that that's a bug. It's probably not a bug because Diego was doing the scripting last week, and both Diego and I still don't have the most recent version of Quarto installed on our local machines. And so this is very much an actively supported product, and it's very much an actively supported set of commands and specifications. So the expectation here is it's probably not operative because we don't have the most recent versions of Quarto. You might be watching and say, why don't you install the most recent version of Quarto? I don't have it installed on my machine for a very specific reason, and that's because there is a bug in the newest version of Quarto that interferes with one of the products that I've been producing on a regular basis, and so I'm intentionally using an older version of Quarto. But so the fenced divs did not operate as we hoped they would with the styling specifications. However, sorry about that. However, the bracketed spans work fine, and so the bracketed spans are indicated by a square bracket opening and then closing that square bracket. Very similar to how we might hyperlink something, except after the square brackets, instead of the parentheses, we put curly brackets. And in those curly brackets, you have your style specification. Now, that style specification in terms of background color and badass is the same as we have in the fence, but it works just fine with the bracketed span, and it wasn't working with the fence. Now, again, I'm attributing that to us just not having the most recent version of Quarto installed on our local machines. That happened again with the you can add options bit. So that's right above this downward pointing red arrow here. So you can add options. We see that we tried with a fence again, and that did not come through with the font color. However, it did just fine with the bracketed span. Now, this bracketed span is nested. There's another bracketed span nested within the parent bracket. And that was kind of a neat thing that we thought we would try, and we weren't sure how it would actually operate. But we tried to create some of our own CSS. And so that's indicated here in the right, in the grayed out area where we have the dot purple underline, or on the left-hand panel, you can see the text decoration and specifying we want an underline here. Now, with this being created locally, the typist document was able to fully reproduce that and apply it both in the non-affected section of text, so you can add options to executable code like this, but it also worked within the other bit of information in our document that we were already altering in terms of the font color. So the echo colon false, this is contained within Typst, so it's going to be rendered in a different font to begin with, but that font did pick up our font color, and it did also pick up the underline specification as well. So that was really neat, and that wasn't something that we really expected to work, but it did. It worked just fine. The first week we looked at Typist, we played with fonts, different types of fonts like Arial and Times New Roman, and we got a little crazy. We went Comic Sans for those 90s fans out there. When we didn't have the internet, we were playing with things like Comic Sans fonts, making ASCII art. Boy, those were the wild, wild west days, weren't they? But so the CSS, the customized CSS that we created did work, and that was probably the most exciting thing that we discovered last week, in my mind anyway. I was very happy about that. Very kind of pumped that worked. Now today, since we've been working with Typist for 3 weeks, just a little a little feature here, a little feature there. Let's stress it here and see what happens. And what we haven't yet done is we haven't created an entire document from scratch. And so before putting Typist to bed for a while, I thought we would actually, and it might just be me. I keep saying we, but I'm not keeping an eye on the background here to see if anybody pops by. But it is a syllabus. I'm not sure that this is going to attract that much attention from my typical collaborators. It's not all that sexy or exciting, I don't think. I like it. I think it's pretty sexy and I don't know what sexy, but it's exciting. Do I have an exciting drop here?
What you doing there?
What?
What you doing there? What you doing there?
Sorry, what?
Turn that there.
That made less sense. What?
Ain't dinner. No.
Yeah, probably not sexy. But anyway, exciting. So we're going to try to apply the lessons learned over the course of the last 3 weeks and reproduce a document. So what I have here is and there's no hyperlink on this page because if this were to be a hyperlink, I would probably go to an extension or a template. And I didn't see an existing, there probably is, but I didn't see an existing template to just copy and use. So I thought, or copy and apply. So I thought what we would do was we could take one of my syllabuses, syllabus, whatever the plural of syllabus is, we'll take one of them. And so this is from a current class that I'm teaching. So I was a full-time professor for 20 years. I don't do that anymore, but I'm open to taking classes here and there if local universities are interested or have a need. And so this is a class that I'm currently teaching. If you hit the download PDF file, you can access the entire PDF. If you want to just scroll through the page on the hyperlink, you should have access to that too. This is all these little buttons are operative. It's just for my old eyes, it's kind of difficult to see. So I'm going to go ahead and access on the download PDF file and take a look at that. Now, this document was actually created via Quarto, because everything I do at this point is Quarto in terms of its specification. So if we, on the right hand side here, the script that I used to generate the syllabus on the left is included here on the right, and we'll take a look at that in just a second a little more deeply. It's 277 lines, so it's not, I don't know if you're a professor and you come across this, or a teacher and have a syllabus, instructor, teacher, professor. I'm not sure if this is going to be saving you time. This is not something that typically has a lot of analytical components to it. And so I did it primarily just to stay consistent, internally consistent with my work processes that pretty much rely only on R Quarto and R Markdown. So we'll come back to this actual PDF scripting file in a little bit, but let's take a look at the syllabus itself so I can point out a few things that we'll try to replicate tonight. So the title being bolded and centered, that's kind of a default specification for the type of document that I'm rendering. The font I don't really care about, but it looks like I did switch the font here between the title and the content. So this to me looks like a Times New Roman-ish, and this is not. I'm not sure what that is, but it's different. So that just strikes me right now. I didn't even realize that that was the case, honestly, until we just look at it right now. The components that I have thought about a little more deeply are things like the table and the formatting of the table. So here I have just a single line above, single line below. There's a couple of columns in here. This is not the typical way I would organize a kind of meta information about the course in a syllabus, but it was something that worked well with the Quarto PDF that's being generated. There is a mixture of fonts here. So this is the headings look like they're consistent with the title, and the normal content looks to me like Times New Roman. So we'll look at that in the scripting. Like I said, I don't remember specifying that. We have a couple of citations in here, and of course, since we're using Quarto, these aren't typed by us. These are in BibTeX format, and we're calling them up in the document, so we'll want to replicate that with a typist document as well. There's a hyperlink in here with an image, and so this doesn't sound all that, you know, this doesn't sound all that, I don't know, special, I guess. But an image, a font, an image like this, an icon that's colored, and it has a hyperlink associated with it. This is a little thing that we can try to incorporate in our typist replication of a syllabus like this, and see how much hassle it is. Now you'll see some callouts, and so this particular syllabus was written right around the time I started applying Quarto more frequently. And so in this syllabus, you probably see evidence of the old adage that if you're holding a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So the call outs, I just wanted to use them. I just thought they looked neat when they were rendered. So I have way too many call outs in here, but we'll see if we can replicate that. In the typist document, there's information in the margin. So this is something that we haven't yet played with, and we're going to see if we can do that in a typist document. Now, some of this level of formatting is traditionally facilitated by LaTeX or LaTeX packages. And when we look at the script, or if you want to go ahead and look at the script that I have, there's probably some packages loaded that might facilitate things like columns and maybe even margins. I know I've used column packages in LaTeX before, but I'm not sure how I got this. This might be just a Quarto option that worked. There's bullets. So we'll play with bullets. Oh, here's a emoji. So there's emojis in here. I should almost make a list, right? There's emojis, there's hyperlinks, there's margin information, there's callouts, there's different fonts that are specified. The regular content in terms of headings and blah, blah, blah here, boilerplate stuff, I'm not so concerned about. Another callout, if the first one works, the subsequent ones should work. Here we go. So there's some other tables in here that we'll try to replicate as well. In the tables, and this can actually be a bit of a struggle, is I have some emojis in the tables themselves. So that's an element that we'll try to replicate. There's more emoji. Well, should be an art class. It's not an art class. It's a psychology class, or it's purported to be a psychology class. Maybe my students would say it's more art than psychology, I guess. But pink. I don't even remember. I remember changing this because I forgot spring break in the original syllabus. So I think I added that fairly recently. The notes rendering kind of weird on this syllabus, so that's something that I wouldn't mind changing. So in terms of full replication, we'll try to reproduce what we have in this PDF, but there are some elements that I might be interested in changing. I don't like the fact that the note is on a different line than the content of the note. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine if an undergraduate student stumbled across something like this and they would have a brand new appreciation for professors, or a new fear of professors? They're like, oh my, you spend this much time looking at the content and format of this information? Normally I wouldn't, but if we're trying to replicate it, might as well. It's kind of difficult to see, but there is some striping on this table. It's not really helping me blowing it up. I think I did that. I may have done that manually because Oh, this table's confusing. So it's not confusing, but it's complex. So I forgot about this. There are groupings in this table as well. This table might take a whole week just to try to replicate. So we'll we'll be spending some time on this table now that I look at it. I didn't realize. But I'm guessing because we have these sections separated within this table, that the striping that we're seeing here, I can see it. I don't know if you can see it, but the striping, the horizontal striping, the row striping, it might be something that I did manually, as is obviously done here. So there's more pronounced striping in this particular table, and so we'll try to replicate that as well. You see another emoji. Emojis will be interesting. We'll see another overused call out block, and then not much else at the end. Okay, about some hyperlinks. So we have hyperlinks, and we know that those are operative within Typist the same way they are within an HTML document or a standard PDF. So that's not going to be an issue. But let's see if we can replicate this guy. So I'm going to leave this open as a reference just so we can see kind of what we're shooting for in terms of format. And then I think what I can do, so you can work along if any of you out there are interested, is I'm going to take the script from my right hand pane here. I'm going to copy it, so that upper right hand clipboard will copy the content of the script, and I'm going to open up a new R file. You know, I think we did create a Typist project folder, and so we'll go in there, and I don't think, oh, this is the Moby Dick example that we did. I'm just going to overwrite it. So this is not going to be Typist. This is going to be the PDF. This is going to be the traditional PDF rendering. So we should see one difference that we're going to see between Typist and the traditional is there will be an intermediate tex file, TEX extension, that appears in our project directory here if we render as a PDF. Now there's a couple of things that I want to disable here before we render it, because some of those tables, let's see if we can get a good look at it here. Some of those tables are specified using markdown tables, and that's what you see on lines 48 through 54. But I know that I also, we'll see if this actually works. So there's some markdown here that specify the size of the columns within this table. So this should be 25%, 75% in terms of the two columns that are specified here. And if you haven't worked with these, there's these are always a little wonky, but we're using these vertical stacks and dash marks primarily to indicate things like columns and rows, and I wanted to find some code chunks, because I think I actually do have some of the tables that are coming in. Oh, here we go. So the code chunks, one of these weeks we should probably, I'm going to get rid of them. One of these weeks we could probably spend a session on properly displaying your R Markdown or Quarto source document, because the 3-tick chunk specification that's typical when we're writing these documents is something that interferes with displaying these documents. And so it's an issue in GitHub. It's an issue with displaying these documents as well. And so one of the ways I've been getting around that is through kind of cheating on the begin and end tick marks here. in my code chunks. And so I I'm gonna I'm well, let's take this out. No, I can't take it out. I can't take this out because this is how I'm actually generating emojis in this PDF document. It's a function, so it's an actual function that's created from this hyperlink here that's annotated out through looks like University of Washington. Somebody came up with an option. So if we look at the YAML, the main thing that we want to pay attention to is on line 5 here, where we see that what we're asking for is a PDF. The bib file and the CSL file I don't actually have, so let's grab those. Uh, Zotero style dictionary. I'm going to look for APA. Or you know what? Let's just comment that one out for now. We'll come back. We'll add that. But for the bibliography itself, there are 2 references here that I'm using for this particular class. If I can find, there it is. So one is the absolute my least favorite textbook I've ever used in any class ever. I can't believe it's the 9th edition. There, I was telling my class, and I feel bad about this, but like the first edition, I'm not even going to say it because it's terrible, but I despise this book. The number of times I have to say, well, the book says this, but really is just ridiculous. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this bib tech format of the book, my favorite book here. And then in the project directory, I'm going to create a new bib file. You should be able to go File, New File, and I do this oftentimes just in a text file, but I think there is, I thought there was a bibtech format text file, I guess we can call it. And I'm going to paste that reference in there. There's a second reference that is an optional text for this class, and it is a reference that we in my field just refer to as the standards. It's the standards for educational and psychological testing. So we'll look for a BibTech formatted reference for that as well. And of course, it's giving me too many things. Let's see. Probably get rid of the authors. Too many authors. Too many cooks spoil the broth in this particular one. So we're just looking for the 5th. Is it 5th? I think it is the 5th edition. Well, we have the not the 5th edition, but this is 1985 would be the 3rd edition. So we don't waste too much time tonight, I'm just going to take the 3rd edition, put that in my bib file, and then I'm going to see if I can save this. So there's our Typist project directory, and we can call it syllabus.bib. You don't need that .bib extension, I don't believe, but it's helpful in terms of if we start to populate our folder with a lot of stuff, it's helpful in order to isolate the type of file that we actually have. Here you see some packages that I'm using, and I believe the emoji package is one that I tried and didn't actually work, so let's just get rid of that. And sorry, I'm changing too much. We should have tried to render it before I changed so much. But we'll see if we get anything here. Now, it didn't like our references, and that's because they're probably called a different thing in the body of the document than they are in the bib file itself. You're seeing in the bottom right here, you're seeing some of the processing that's taking place with the generation of a traditional PDF, that tech file that I talked about. The text specifications are controlling the formatting. Quarto is providing a shortcut to writing tech, so we can write it in a Markdown flavored language, and Quarto is taking care of the legwork in terms of getting the tech file. All right, we failed. It doesn't like my emojis. So maybe we do need the emoji package. Is it possible that that actually works? And then we'll go back and take a look at our citations as well, which it can't find here. But if we get this to actually render, we'll see what kind of errors we throw if we run this as a typist. The other thing we can do is just create a typist document from scratch. Looks like it did like that emoji package. So there you see pretty much what we have on the shared link in terms of the slides. It's looking for references, so we need to get our tags here. So the tag is the shorthand name for the text. It's in this case text. So I'm gonna go ahead and change those to American 1985 standards, and I'll go ahead and re-render that. The other type of file that you see in the lower right hand pane in terms of what's being created is there's a log file, and those log files are also important when producing a traditional PDF via TeX or LaTeX. So those log files are going to tell us where errors are made and how to find them. Sometimes they'll tell you how to correct them or some suggestions for how to correct them. Now, we're not getting the full references here. We're getting citations like we would normally get. So we could go change that if we want. I don't think tonight we need to do that. However, it should just be a YAML specification, so we could. Well, let's do a quick one on that. No, you know what? Let's come back to that. Let's see what happens if we just change this to typist with the expectation that it's not going to work. The geometry aspects of this, that's controlling things like columns and margins. Those will come back and play with via the typist specifications. And I guess the other thing I could do, well, now we got a weird error. I didn't expect it to give us an error on the bib. Oh, because I got rid of the bib. That was kind of silly, wasn't it? Where is my... So let me double check and see what the command is. I think it's just bibliography, but I think it's bibliography and one indent over, but I don't remember off the top of my head, so I just want to double check on a help file there. So bibliography, and then what did we call it? Syllabus. So that should be an easy enough fix. It's a weird spot to get hung up. Oh, look at that. This might be easier than I thought. It's reading in most of what we did with our PDF specification. You see the font, actually I like better. So the font is more consistent here. The table, we're gonna have to play with the table. It looks like it's coming in center justified. We're missing lines. The text, we need to specify APA there because those numbers are kind of, I don't like them. They're placing, I guess we could just leave it for now. I don't know why I'm such a stickler on. I don't like APA kind of infringing upon researchers' creativity and just different ways that they might want to approach doing things, but for whatever reason, they must have me just beat down because now I'm like, well, it doesn't look right. It should look like what it always looks like. Okay, so so for tonight, this will be a 2 week thing, I can already tell. For tonight, there's a couple things we can play with here. One is the tables, trying to get the tables formatted. Um, we did not get margin specifications. This information here, starting with muchas gracias, that was in the margin in the PDF document. There is no emoji specification, so we need to figure that out. Now, one of the ways that you can cheat with emojis using RStudio is to use the source editor, the visual editor instead of the source editor. I don't think I want to do that. So we're going to see if we can, wait, it looks a lot better there, doesn't it? We're going to see if we can get the emojis through the source coding, not the visual editor. Now, one thing that looks like definitely happened is our table call widths command it was not operative here. Our hyperlink to the non-mandatory reference is not operative either. That's not coming through in the document. So there's a bunch of things we can work on. So let's start with the table. So let's see if we can get the table looking a little nicer. And by looking a little nicer, what I mean is there's just kind of floating words here right now. Let's put some box around it. Let's see if we can get this information not center justified. I really don't like center justification on this. I don't know, it probably doesn't matter, but I just don't like the looks of it. So let's play with that. Let me see if I can get back to StreamYard. There we are. Okay, yeah, so let's just take these one by one. We'll start with the actual table. So let's look at Typist table. And again, so Typist exists outside of Quarto. Quarto is just facilitating the production of Typist documents, kind of like Reveal.js. It's a very kind of similar relationship there. So we're going to see help files that both have both inside and outside of, in this particular application, Quarto. Beautiful tables and Typist. Now that sounds promising. Quarto now allows HTML tables. Well, that's what we're kind of trying to do. It does this by translating CSS properties. Let's see, July 2nd. So that should be fine with my version of Quarto. So I think we're okay in terms of me not having to update my version of Quarto. 6 examples using CSS properties. So there's source code in these. I've never seen this help page before, but it looks promising for sure. A lot of color. I'm not sure I'm interested so much in color. Borders we do want. So number 3 might be something we look at. Font sizes. I don't think we need to play with that. Here, the note is rendering nicer, right? So we did talk about that. So maybe we can take a look at that. That's crazy looking, awesome table. No, more colors again. So let's take a look at that third one and see if we see some borders specifications here that we can steal. This is being done in Python, it looks like. So it looks like they're doing some of the formatting within the table specification itself. GT is a table package. So the information is up here. They're just combining them. And then the actual formatting specification, I'm not seeing a ton of help there. So let's take a look at a different link. Sometimes these GitHub help pages are helpful. You can see other people trying to do similar things to what you want to do, and there's there's people who have helped out with suggestions in terms of how to go ahead and get that. Here we're actually seeing it looks like someone does want borders and they're not getting all the borders, which is kind of what we're dealing with right now too. Some more Python specification. Here's the borders. Again, they're kind of within that GT package. I'm hoping that we can find just a markdown specification. So maybe I should look at that. So the markdown tables, I wonder if there is, I wonder if this is not, well, so I think one of the things we're not getting is the standard markdown specification of things like titles and then some CSS commands. So the hover's not going to work for sure in our typist document, but striped is something that maybe works. Now, one of the things we might have to do is we might have to move from a markdown table to something like a table specified in a chunk. So we definitely could do that. I don't think the call widths are working. It doesn't look to me like they are. It looks like we can also do that within the YAML. I don't know. We'll try it here. I don't think it looks like it's on the same. You got to be careful in these YAML specifications in terms of where you're asking, and if it's wrong, we'll probably see it be wrong right away here. Yeah, I don't think that changed anything, did it? So this would apply to every table, every markdown table that's being rendered in the document. Again, it's difficult to say because I think of that center justification, but to me, I don't see any difference there. We can go 50-50, and I don't think that's actually working. So I wasn't really expecting that to work in the YAML because it looks like it's also not working with the markdown file specification either. Now, I guess one thing I have is these backslashes, and backslashes are important in traditional PDF scripting for tech and law tech. So let's go back and look at our help page and see if they also have, no, they don't have any slashes. So I wonder if what's going on is just slashes. Let's try that. And then in the same kind of context, ideally we would be able to specify things like borders. Now, I'm looking to see. So our left-hand information is aligned under the 3 roughly here. So let's change that to 50-50 and see if anything looks different. It does actually. So that's working. Okay. So that's progress. So we're actually, the call width specification is working. We can try stripes. I wonder if stripes is going to work. Call widths, that's neat that actually does work. I'm kind of skeptical of this. So it should just be space and then the second command. We will also try taking out the call widths if this doesn't work and see if, yeah, I'm not, it's so difficult to see. Hello, you're probably looking at my nose. I don't think the striped specification worked. Let's try just striped. and make sure that the recommended structure of our colon curly brackets is consistent with what's being asked. They're also putting a title in there. We don't have a title, but that shouldn't matter. Sometimes these multiple specifications of stylings they do interfere with each other, but yeah, this one just isn't. We're not getting that striped capability, but we are getting the call widths, which is neat. So the other thing that we should try to do before we call it tonight is see if we can get a border on this. Now again, I'm going to try to do it. We'll try to do it with the markdown specification and subtables. Let's look for our markdown table borders. Here's another Python attempt. Some temporary examples. Now, maybe it's just a default in the PDF that I'm actually doing. So top line is what I think we want. So it looks like there are, I didn't know that those curly bracket specifications actually worked. So they're not doing an end on there. This is bizarre. So this is all new to me. So let's see here. Let's just see if we can add something. Those pipes above and below might be important as well. I haven't seen this syntactic structure before. So that obviously blew up. It doesn't want that. Now, though, one thing we could try is they don't have these end pipes. So let's see. I'm just getting rid of those and we'll see if that does anything. Now, I believe if we match the structure here, well, let's just take the whole table and see if the whole table works. And if that table works, then we should be able to kind of tweak it and make our table fit. No, it does not like that. So the actual, whatever this help page is that we've stumbled across, it isn't porting over directly to, over to our Typist document. Let's actually just do it quickly, see if it works. See if it works with an HTML file, as maybe it's something that's HTML specific. We didn't look closely enough at the documentation there. No, it's still not actually working. So that might. So usually Markdown specifications work for R Markdown specifically. I'm guessing it's just the curly bracket specification that's something that's not supported. So how do we get rid of? We don't want to get rid of, we want to add. And these are going to be HTML specific as well. So I think our best bet, unfortunately, might be to actually put the information in a CSV file and then see if we can render the table that way. So, so let's build a small CSV, and then we'll just try that before we end tonight. So I'm going to do another text file, and we'll just put hello, who you, hi me, aloha you. So I'm going to save that as a CSV, and there should just be 2 columns and 3 rows there. The top row is going to be treated as a header by default, but we'll just do test test table and call it. And then I'm going to we'll add a code chunk here. We'll see if we can get a decent table in there. And what did we call it? Test table. So we'll read that in. Looks like it read in fine. There's a warning there, but let's see what that looks like. So it read in, again, the headers by default, that's fine. So we have 2 column headers, and then we have 2 rows of information. Now let's see if we can actually display this. And we probably use cable. So let's use cable extra. And we'll cable the table and see what that looks like. Now this cable and cable extra are usually pretty good across different product types. So I'm guessing we'll get something here. And this is something that should be easier to format. So there's our cable format. So let's go ahead and do a look for cable extra borders. It's funny, when I first became a professor, the students always wanted to use Google for everything, and I said, don't Google. And now, now that I'm doing it, I'm 2 years out of date with that as well, because now AI is better. It just is. So it looks like Cable Classic is probably what we want. It looks like that's the format that I'm kind of looking for, with the top and the bottom and then the middle line there. So let's see if it takes a value of Cable Classic. That would be really easy if that's all we need to do. No, it didn't like that. Might not like it because of the PDF, which is kind of funny. So let's see if we can render this quickly as an HTML. Which the HTML files are always are typically more forgiving and a little easier to work with. So we got the same error. So it's just not liking. It doesn't like Cable Classic. That might be we might have used it in the wrong specification here. There's a lot more that's actually being used. They're piping as well. So let me copy an entire bit of code here, and we'll add the tidyverse just to make that piping operative. And then we're going to feed it not DTL, but we'll feed it our table object. Everything else, well, HTML font. I don't think we want that. We can leave the caption for now. It's not liking the... You know what? That might be... Oh, stupid me. Ugh. I didn't load the the package itself. I'm guessing it's still gonna throw an error here. So it's something about the the PDF that we're trying to generate. But it's tough when no one's here just trying to talk through this stuff and read as well. Functions that produce HTML output found. Okay, so I wonder if Cable Classic is specific for HTML. That'd be a bummer if it is. It looks like we are in kind of an HTML area here. HTML only. I don't want that. I know I've done this several different times in terms of stylings. So let's see if we can find something here. Before we end, we gotta at least get a table that looks nice. I was thinking about maybe going getting something else to eat since those chicken tikka masala samosas didn't really do it for me, but I think it might be getting too late for me. It's getting past my bedtime. Doggone it. Cable PDF table. Let's see if maybe... No, these are very helpful pages for the package, but they are a little less useful, I think, than... sorry, I'm just trying to see if this is in Cable or Cable Extra. A little less useful than the HTML help pages, these, even though we're trying to create a PDF. It's kind of funny. So I'm not sure if that's... It might... I think KBL is Cable Extra. I think that's a default specification, if I remember right. So we can do... Let me load the library so I don't make the same silly mistake this time. So we'll just try Cable table. Instead of Cable, it's KBL, which I think is a Cable Extra command. Book tabs. What are book tabs? I forget what those are. Similar to Bootstrap, in LaTeX you can also use a trick to make your table prettier. You don't need to pipe. We're not piping. You should call book tabs equals true. Now, okay, that's easy enough, but I wonder if we would have done that originally. If that's all we actually needed. So if this works, we'll go back and try our original specification. No, it still doesn't like... Now I think there might be a command to specify that what we want well, that's funny. It looks like... What is going on? It looks like... It looks like a chunk is running. It's saying add something to our YAML, which I don't know why we would do that. Well, anyway, this is kind of what we expected a little bit in terms of seeing what kind of obstacles we run into just trying to get a replication of the PDF document that we know how to do in this new format called Typist. So really doesn't like that. This isn't an efficient use of our studio. It's probably not an efficient use of your time, but it's not an efficient use of our studio either. Just keep rendering. Let's see what functions that produce HTML. Okay. Please change. So it wants us to change the document to HTML. It doesn't like the cable specification that we have. Um, However, I think this works in a PDF format. So let's try that. And so if so, then that'll be curious because I guess in my mind I was thinking the typist specifications are going to be closest in flavor and look and feel to the PDF specifications, but it looks like the code that we have that is PDF operative might be. Oh, okay, that's good. So actually, we got an error again. So I think that's good. It doesn't like the emoji again. Um, that's because I have the emoji package in there. Doggone it, I should have got rid of emojis. I think. Let me put those packages back. This is getting so messy. I thought it was going to be a quick, just close and easy kind of thing. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to really minimize what we have here. Because there's just too much going on. So we can see if we can get, let's just see if we can get the table like we want as a PDF, because my suspicion was that it might be okay with the PDF specification, but it's not transferring to typist. The the typist looks like it might be looking for something more HTML flavored, but the cable extra package isn't giving us that. Yeah, that's what we want. So the PDF file looks fine with this specification as a PDF, but it does not like that for Typist, which we haven't played with before. So let me do a couple things here. So we'll keep that echo, and I'm using the old R Markdown specifications here. But I think if we get this to work, so let's see. So PDF is fine. Again, I'm going to render it so we don't have all those messages, so we can just see the nice, pretty formatted table. And then I guess we can see if it works as an HTML. We don't care about HTML, but there's our nice table. And again, the content we're not so concerned about. It's the lines. Nobody's going to want to do a syllabus via Typist after seeing this. Let's see if HTML actually works with the book tabs equal true specification, which supposedly is a kind of formatting thing for PDFs. Oops, wrong button, sorry. This looks fine, so HTML files by default have that striping. We'll try a Typist here, and this is where we ran into an issue. Yeah, it's still saying, I think you want an HTML. It doesn't like cable. So before we end this, let's do one more look at the help page for Typist tables. Oh, that's kind of funny. And again, there's a lot more kind of control and tweaking that we should be able to do and probably get it to work. But the normal or the typical obstacle is getting your HTML table to render in PDF, and that's working fine. But maybe we have a second obstacle here, which is Typist, which might be different, completely different. I think this is the page we were at before. Um, Again, there's not real help here in terms of, but we can see what kind of they're using GT. So everyone seems to be using that GT package for tables. I guess we could do that. I'd like to try to figure out if we can get cable or cable extra to work. There's GT again. Yeah, Python. I wonder, let's do a cable Quarto typist. Maybe that's just not something that people do. So here's an answer from about a year ago. It's saying you can add feature requests on type. This has got to be something that we can do. It's mentioning here for any future reader. Look at that. This guy, he's all over the place, and he's prescient. Like, what a guy. Christoph, thank you so much. You're always out there helping with stuff. Um, Currently, tables will usually be emitted as markdown table and then converted to typist. We're aware of tools that could improve the output. Okay, in typist. So this wouldn't be cable. This would be a typist-based tool. This could be a feature request. It's not currently. As of a year ago, it wasn't in there. GT. It looks like everyone's using GT. There's another package. I guess we could check out this package. Tiny table. Gotta like that. Let's try it. I don't know if this one's on CRAN. It looks like they want the dev version installed here. So we might as well try it. So let's do an install. Boy, that's a big install command. Yeesh. Glad I copied it. I got laughed at the other day for saying yeesh. No, I said sheesh. I got laughed at for saying sheesh. I was walking into a place and it was really windy and the door went flying open. And I said sheesh. I got laughed at mercilessly. No one asked if I wanted the person to be killed who mercilessly laughed at me, but that's okay. I survived. Oh, it's on CRAN. Just read ahead, Kulas. Read ahead. So let's try tiny tables. Look at this. Chunk's getting big here. And then we'll see if this works. If not, we'll just call it for tonight. The default looks like what the rendering here on the help page is looking like what we're hoping to actually get. Says it didn't like that. What don't you like? Oh, did I spell that wrong? Tiny table? Didn't like the package. So that's unexpected. I thought we just installed it. Tiny table. What the heck? Oh, that's a new one on me. Never seen that. What a night. Nothing's going right. That happens though, I guess. Maybe something weird happened on that. I wasn't really watching it. I was too busy complaining about my sheesh complainer. Says it's successfully unpacked. Those MD5 sums, you gotta look out for the MD5 sums. They should always be checked. Alright, let's try this again. Boy, it really doesn't. What? Is the universe out against us tonight? Is that what's going on? What is going on here? I wonder. I wonder what the R requirement actually is. But that's a weird one. I'm not sure. Um, this object record print not found. I'm not sure what that actually is. Doggone it. Okay, we'll try a GT. We gotta try something here. GT package. I don't use it. But let's see what it is here. Let's see how to specify. I'm guessing we're not going to get the formatting that we want on this because it looked like the default specifications didn't have the line. All of this for some horizontal lines. We want horizontal lines, please. Can I have a horizontal line? Look at that. The library works just fine. Let's see. GT table typist. Let's see if we can get some. Oh, that's right. We already saw these. I bet our buddy Christoph is going to be here again. He's everywhere. I wonder if GT has the Magritter piping operator installed in it as well. Oh, that's a nice looking table. Oh, that's what he wants. It's not what he gets. He's using the same version of Quarto. I believe that we are. Oh, looks like there's some typist specifications. Well, it looks like we might have chosen, in terms of first thing to tackle, not the best first thing to tackle. Again, I think we've already looked at this, but I'm kind of curious. Known layouts, yeah. Thought we had a table command on here. CSS, we saw that. This is the typist. That's kind of the stand-in for the tech file. It looks like, I believe it is. All right, let's just go to GT. So how do I get my GT table? What's the command? Looks like a bunch of crap there. GT, there we go. We should just be able to do a GT. It's for the plainest of plain. And yeah, I mean, it came through. Look at that font. I don't know about that font. Now, it's 7:30 already. All right, so sorry, people, we didn't get very far tonight. So again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to replicate syllabus that we have already specified in PDF format. We're trying to see if we can get it in typist format, and we got stalled on the table, just the table formatting. So I think what I'll do, we'll do this again next week. What I will do between this week and next week is I will look for some ways to specify table formatting that are going to work in Typist and allow us to be a lot more specific in terms of silly things like lines and borders and fonts and things like that. Okay, so I'll be looking at that, and then next week we'll figure it out. Sorry we didn't get to it this week, but we will get it next week. All right, good night.